Gooseworks has some serious guts, killing the fan favorite character off screen with this kind of fan base she has. I know Jax is meant to be the bad ending self insert, meant to serve as a cautionary tale to just be nicer and reach out to people when you're upset or whatever. But making the only trans character an abuser with next to no redeeming qualities is wild. Does she not know that it's Pride Month? Having them commit suicide and have the rest of the cast be happier without her was even crazier. I'm not trans or suicidal, so I'm in no way, shape, or form trying to tell anybody how they're supposed to feel, or whether or not they're supposed to be offended by something. With that being said, I am shocked that everybody seems to be relatively chill about this. I guess with Rocky Horror, Silence of the Lambs, and Ace Ventura, the trans community is just happy with what they could get at this point. But it's 2026, cancel culture is alive and thriving. I'd be scared shitless to make a character like this and post it online. I'm not sure whether or not this is considered good representation or not, but I'm just impressed, honestly. I mean, I thought Fibsy was crazy for putting Valentino in the Hero I Hope song, but there's a whole new level of... I have no idea how the world is going to react to this. I heard most of the people complaining that Jax abstracted off screen. I don't know what they were expecting with knowing what abstraction is a metaphor for. It's more realistic to have it off screen since it shows how quickly someone can make that kind of decision. It'll be too late for anybody to do anything about it. It leaves the people left behind wondering if they could have said or done something differently to prevent it from happening. I think they could have gone without most of the scenes with all the Jax personality clones since we've already been beat over the head with Jax's unhealthy coping mechanisms for the past 8 episodes. We've already been given more than enough reasons to hate Jax. We don't need the show to hold our hand and tell us what a defense mechanism is. We all know that what Jax is doing is wrong, and what he's doing is not mentally healthy. The worst offender's gotta be the Gangle Zubul funeral scene. I feel like it just served no purpose and it was just random fan service. The scenes with Kaufmo and Ribbit were more enjoyable and important because it explains why Jax is the way he is without excusing it. I don't think we need quite so many flashbacks of Jax mistreating Ribbit because it doesn't seem like it takes very much for these characters to abstract. Making Jax too unlikable does a huge disservice to the other characters for allowing her to treat her friend so badly and rarely holding her accountable for it. I'm guessing they were too afraid to fight back because they thought they could make her abstract and they would have to live with the guilt of it or something. Or maybe the writers just didn't want to have another Ragatha situation where she stood up for herself and the Jax fans get out their torches and pitchforks. So many people say they like characters who are traumatized or mentally ill because they think they'll always be cute and endearing, but can't handle a character that's handling their trauma in an ugly way. Those ugly moments don't make Jax a badly written character. It makes her a realistic one. I would have liked to see the other characters more divided as to whether or not they forgive Jax, since no one should be obligated to forgive someone for abusing you just because they had a hard life and they feel bad about what they did. It would be very interesting to see the characters argue about something, so since they're such goody two-shoes, they never really get mad at each other or disagree about anything, and they're always super supportive and forgiving of each other's decisions no matter how easily it could have ended badly. I'd be willing to let the whole thing with Ribbit go because Jax never saw anybody abstract before. Hell, then throw Jax another bone. Kaufmo might have just abstracted because he just couldn't find the exit, was stressed out. You want to know what really pisses me off? Jax bullying Gangle and throwing Ragatha in the French fry oil, knowing full well that her behavior could cause them to abstract at any time. But even after all that, I didn't want Jax to suffer the way she did in the end. It didn't mess me up as bad as I thought it would, but watching a character who's already been through so much, is constantly trying to hide their pain, die in such a horrible, undignified way, definitely hurt. I don't know if this makes me really stupid, naive, or just plain human. There was a part of me that disagreed with all the fans that were saying she was too far gone beyond help. I'm not a fan of the idea to ever label anybody as beyond help because how is that helping the people who saw themselves in Jax? In my psychology class, we learned about something called unconditional positive regard. It basically means that you continue to try to help someone and believe in them without judging or shaming others for their mistakes. I always held on to it as one of my core values, so I think if I were in the circus, I would try to forgive Jax as best I could, even if it means that I get set up for disappointment. I try to get into the habit of saying I forgive you instead of it's okay when people apologize to me for something they've done out of malicious intent, because it helps give people comfort and security without making them think what they did was acceptable. They say you can't help someone who doesn't want to be saved, But in her last moments, she gave Pomni the key, accepted her hug, and said she didn't want to go. That leads me to believe that Jax could have taken the steps to get better or redeem herself, and Pomni was able to pull her out of the abstraction. But obviously, if somebody takes their own life, it's too late to bring them back. I did really like when they brought her into the tent and helped her rest and calm down. Jax is lucky to have had so many good people in her life, even if she didn't always deserve them. I don't know if the song choice was very fitting because I feel like it was a little bit comedic since Jax really isn't very lovely most of the time. It felt almost sarcastic. I feel like a sad music box cover of Daisy Bell probably would have hit harder. I also don't know how good it is for people who are depressed to see all these comments saying that if you make enough mistakes and if you mess up badly enough, you're an irredeemable monster, you deserve to die, and everybody would be better off without you. So if you are one of those people, maybe you should stop that. I don't know, maybe I'm just a slut for a good redemption arc. But every time Jax's pupils changed size, or she said something nice to somebody or tried to help the group do something, I thought it was building up to this big, wonderful redemption arc where Jax was gonna get to be better and make friends and do wonderful things. Or she'd at least make this big sacrifice at the end and help them escape the circus, kind of like what happens with Asriel in the pacifist ending of Undertale. They were also foreshadowing Jax's abstraction a lot, but I thought we were going to get our cake and eat it too. But we just ended up with one piece of cake, which is great. I love cake. I'm grateful for the one piece of cake. But damn, that second piece of cake looked delicious. We kind of got one from Kane, but it was very rushed. I thought they were kind of going to be able to explain how he survived being deleted, maybe show them opening up the recycling bin, and he was be like, oh, they do still care about me. But instead, we kind of just get this weird scene where he's talking to himself in the void, and I kind of wish this scene had more show and less tell. Kind of just came to the conclusion so quickly. He's like, I made a mistake. I should go back and fix that. And he just yoinked the bubble out of his head or whatever. It kind of reminded me of the scene with Mike in Total Drama. I think it was All Stars, where he cures his multiple personalities associated with identity disorder by just pressing an off button in his brain. It's like, oh, we don't need to hold him accountable. The blue dot was in control of his head the whole time. We really didn't need that. His crash out was pretty valid. Anyway, I kind of wanted to explore Pomni a little bit too, since she is kind of the main character, even though she did take the back seat for Jax. I kind of wish we got to explore Pomni's grief more this episode. She knew Gummy Goo for like less than a day, and his disappearance lived rent-free in her head for like the rest of the series. Pomni had an opportunity to stop him from walking away, so it would be only natural for her to think she failed him and his death was partially her fault. She might think that if she had the right thing to say, or if she could have done something to make her happy enough, she would have gotten better. I heard her role in the story was to be the one to be too stubborn to give up on somebody who's too stubborn to be saved. But I'm not really seeing it. If we did want to go that route, I think it would be cool to see her being in denial that she can't be brought back and try to enter Jax's abstraction and pull her out instead of just trying to contain her. Kinger would obviously try to talk her out of it and say she can't, but she would keep trying anyway. She seemed way too calm about appearing to be that close to saving Jax only for the stupid flashbang to ruin everything. They all seemed entirely too calm about Jax turning into a monster in the first place. Either way, it would be cool as hell to see a character abstract from the outside with their animation style instead of just seeing the funky color acid trip. I could see it being Pomni since she would be upset with her friends for pulling her out of the mind merge thing and feeling guilty that she let her die. I pictured this really cool scene where Pomni is going down into wherever they keep the abstractions at, and she starts to abstract, but then the rest of the abstractions start to mind fuse with her. And Jax is there, but she's wearing Ribbon's bow tie and she's doing so much better. So Pomni doesn't feel guilty anymore. And then Pomni could finally forgive herself and let go. And Jax is able to convince her to keep living. Before she fully abstracts. You could tell I write really bad fanfiction, can't you? Or I just really like that scene in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 where Rocket just sees the rest of the animal characters in heaven. And Rocket gets to see they're all okay. I know the afterlife stuff is kind of corny and cliche, but I grew up with the scare tactic if somebody kills themselves, they get a one-way ticket to hell. It may sound good on paper to some people because there's a slight chance that it might help somebody change their mind. But what if it doesn't, and their last conscious thought is that they're going to suffer in hell for all eternity? Do the people who lost somebody to suicide really need to go the rest of their lives believing that their lost loved one is burning in hell? And that's not even getting into the certain religions that believe the LGBT people go to hell. We do get a little bit of comfort saying that their human forms are doing so much better. I know some people may think that Jax probably should just be a lobotomized acid trip goldfish floating around aimlessly for all eternity after what she did. But that would also mean that Ribbit, Kaufmo, Queenie, and Scratch would be in the same predicament, and that would suck. I'd have to say overall, I really liked this episode. I'd probably give it like a B or a B+. I really liked the scenes with Gangle. That kind of reminded me of the song Requiem from Dear Evan Hansen. I think my favorite part of the entire episode is when Gangle shows Kane the pictures that she drew, and Kane is like flabbergasted on how beautiful they are. It's just really nice to see an AI creature appreciate real art from people. And when they're playing Dungeons and Dragons and you just see Gangle getting this gremlin energy being the dungeon master. And Zubul using their body parts to save the day after hearing them talk about how they don't like their body for like who knows how many episodes. I do kind of wish that Ragatha and Pomni gave Kanger a pep talk for once, because he already gave them pep talks, and he gave Pomni the same pep talk again, and he accidentally killed Kane, and he really liked Kane from the looks of it in the adventures. He was the most excited about them, and he did destroy their home, the circus, and he's been there the longest. I think he needed the pep talk more than Pomni did. But I don't want to be too critical about it because this episode was a masterpiece and I will never be able to make anything better. Everybody who worked on the project is super talented. The voice actors, the animators, the writers, just everybody. It's definitely one of my favorite indie animations, and I know that more people want more episodes, but I'm grateful for the ones we have. And I hope when Gooseworks gets the nice long break and she's less burnout, she could look back at the project and hopefully feel better about it. If you're struggling with your mental health, I hope you find a community or a hobby that brings you joy again. Stick around and talk to someone. If you know somebody who's struggling with their mental health, try to be there for them, even if you're just there to listen. You'd be surprised how many times just listening to someone will mean the absolute world to them. And if they're upset about something that doesn't seem like a big deal to you, or you just feel like they're being dramatic, don't be dismissive of them, because they might just not trust you enough yet and be just telling you little things at a time until they could trust you with the bigger things. Or some people are just more resilient than others. But that doesn't make them any less worthy of respect and empathy.